Ladies and gentlemen, in a world that constantly demands your attention, your reaction. Tell me, your energy, what happens when you give all of it away to become situations that you lose yourself? We are an actor today. I'm talking powerful, how to focus on yourself, stay silent, and read the noise of the world. There comes a point in life when external becomes two loud voices telling you to loud voices, tell me life. When external noise implying you will rise above the becomance of something, the news about distraction to be how I put to chase. Tell me. The modern world is overflowing with distractions, opinions, and expectations. But within you there is a place of stillness, a space untouched by chaos, a place where your real power lies. Today we are not just going to talk about isolation or escape. We are going to explore how and self-focus are the most sacred tools for strength, healing, and transformation. Because when you master the art of turning inward, the world no longer controls you. From the moment we are born, the world teaches us to seek approval. Approval from our parents, our teachers, our friends, our community. We're conditioned to believe that our value is reflected in how others see us, what they think of us, and what they say about us. Slowly, without even realizing it, we begin living a life that revolves around performance. Doing things not because they resonate with our soul, but because they might bring applause. We start moving away from authenticity and closer toward imitation, trading our uniqueness for acceptance. And in this subtle yet dangerous shift, we lose our alignment with who we truly are. Inner alignment means living in harmony with your inner truth, your values, your intuition, and your higher self. Tell me, it's not about being liked, it's about being real. But to get there, one must first become conscious of how often we're driven by the desire to impress or fit in. When you find yourself constantly thinking about how others perceive you, that's a signal you're operating from the outside in. And that's where suffering begins. Because no matter how much you achieve or how many people praise you, the emptiness doesn't go away. Tell me it grows. Because the soul doesn't crave praise, it craves purpose. To come back into alignment, one must practice the art of silence, not just external silence, but internal stillness. It is in this quiet space that the truth reveals itself. When you no longer measure your worth through the reactions of others, you begin to hear the subtle whispers of your own spirit guiding you. This is not easy. It requires courage to sit with yourself, to stop performing, to stop seeking attention, and to look inward with honesty. But in doing so, you reclaim something profound, your own voice. Society will always have its opinions. People will always have expectations. The question is not how to please them all. The question is whether you are pleasing the deeper part of yourself. Are you living in a way that honors your soul's blueprint, or are you betraying it just to keep the world comfortable? Tell me. The more you listen to others and ignore yourself, the more you become a stranger in your own life. But when you choose inner alignment, to begin walking a path that may not be popular, but it will always be meaningful. The world might not understand your silence. It might even resist it. But silence is powerful because it disconnects you from the illusion of needing approval. Tell me, it brings you back to your center, where you no longer feel the urge to explain, justify, or argue. You simply exist in your truth, quietly, confidently, and peacefully. And in that space, something magical happens. You begin attracting the right people, the right situations, and the right energy, not by effort, but by essence. Your energy speaks before your words ever can. You don't have to announce your growth. You don't have to seek applause for your healing. You don't need validation for your evolution. When you are aligned with your inner self, the need for outer recognition fades away. Tell me, you start to realize that most of what you were chasing was rooted in a fear of not being enough. But once you touch that still place inside, you begin to see that you were always enough. You were simply distracted by noise. This is why it's important to be selective about where you place your attention. Approval is a moving target, and no matter how much of it you gain, it can disappear in an instant. But alignment is constant. It doesn't rely on anyone outside of you. Tell me. It's the quiet knowing that you are walking your path with integrity, that your actions reflect your truth, that your words mirror your soul. And even if no one else sees it or understands it, it brings a deep peace that no external validation can replace. The journey from outer approval to inner alignment is one of the most powerful transformations a person can experience. It requires awareness, patience, and a willingness to let go of who thought you needed to be in order to become who you truly are. Tell me, the world may not celebrate this change, but your soul will, and in the stillness of your silence, you'll begin to remember something the noise made you forget. You were never meant to be everyone's favorite. You were meant to be your own. Silence is not just the absence of sound, it is a sacred space where transformation begins. In a world that celebrates constant noise, endless scrolling, rapid opinions, and instant reactions, silence is seen almost as a threat. But it is in silence that we begin to notice things we could not hear before. The subtle pull of intuition, the murmur of unresolved emotions, the energy that rises and falls within us. Silence is the doorway to clarity, and clarity is the foundation of conscious living. Without clarity, we live in confusion. We make decisions from fear. We speak from anxiety. Tell me, we move from restlessness. But with clarity we see, we understand, we know. And to arrive at that place of knowing, we must learn to protect our energy from all that fragments it. Everything around you is pulling at your attention. Notifications, conversations, comparisons, obligations, all competing for your energy. Every time you give your focus to something that doesn't nourish you, you leak energy. And when you leak energy, can't tell me, you weaken your ability to be present, centered, and grounded. Silence acts as a barrier, a filter, a sacred shield. It gives you permission to withdraw from the chaos and return to the sanctuary within. The moment you choose silence, you are no longer reacting, you are observing. You are reclaiming your power by choosing where your energy flows. There is a strength that grows in silence. Not the loud strength that boasts or dominates, but a quiet strength that anchors and stabilizes. It's the strength of someone who doesn't need to explain their piece. It's the strength of someone who can walk away without shouting. Tell me, when you practice silence, you begin to separate your true self from your emotional self. You no longer need to defend every opinion, respond to every insult, or participate in every drama. You begin to understand that not everything requires your input. Not everything deserves your energy. Some things are best unspoken, not because you are weak, but because you are wise. Clarity does not come from doing more, knowing more. It comes from pausing, from listening, from letting the noise settle. Tell me, when the waters of your mind are disturbed, everything looks distorted. But when you allow the ripples to calm, the truth becomes visible. You begin to understand yourself at a deeper level. You start noticing patterns. What drains you? What excites you? What aligns with your purpose? And what pulls you away from it? This awareness is impossible to develop if you're constantly surrounded by noise. You need silence to come back to yourself. Tell me. Many people fear silence because in silence, everything they've been avoiding rises to the surface. Old memories, hidden pain, doubts. Tell me, and questions start to appear. But this is not a punishment. It's a cleansing. Silence also sharpens your intuition. When you're always speaking or reacting, you override the subtle messages your inner guidance system is trying to send. But when you're silent, you hear more clearly. You start recognizing the difference between fear and intuition, between impulse and insight. You stop seeking answers outside of yourself and start trusting the wisdom that's always been within you. Tell me, this inner compass becomes your guide, not the opinions of the world or the noise of the moment. Protecting your energy doesn't mean shutting people out. It means becoming conscious of what you allow in. Tell me, not every conversation deserves your attention. Not every conflict needs your voice. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing at all. That silence is not passive. It's intentional. Tell me, it's an act of self-respect. It's a decision to preserve your energy for things that elevate you, rather than deplete you. And with time, tell me, you begin to notice that silence speaks louder than noise. It communicates calm, confidence, and control without ever needing to raise a voice. Choosing silence in a loud world is an act of rebellion, but it is also an act of healing. Tell me, it teaches you to find peace not in external validation, but in internal connection. It protects your energy from being wasted on things that don't matter. Tell me. And it cultivates the clarity that helps you live with greater direction. You stop reacting to the world and start responding to your own soul. You become less scattered, more centered, less drained, more empowered. And the more you practice silence, the more you discover that it's not an absence. It's a presence. Tell me, a presence that holds you steady when everything else is trying to pull you away from yourself. One of the most overlooked truths about personal evolution is this: true growth does not always happen in motion. It often happens in stillness, in the quiet spaces where we choose to observe rather than react, to witness rather than interfere. Tell me, to pause instead of rushing in. The modern world thrives on instant reaction. Click here, comment now, respond quickly, don't stay silent. Tell me, but in the midst of this urgency lies an ancient wisdom: not everything deserves your reaction. Not every situation needs your energy. Tell me. And growth, real, internal, lasting growth, happens when you choose to observe the world, your thoughts, your emotions, and others, without immediately getting pulled into them. Reactivity is a conditioned behavior. From childhood, most of us have been taught to respond right away, to defend ourselves when criticized, to fight back when provoked, to prove a point when challenged. This constant need to react keeps us on the surface of life. We become emotionally drained, mentally scattered, and spiritually disconnected. Observation, on the other hand, invites you to step back, not to disconnect or detach. Tell me, but to gain perspective. It creates space between the stimulus and the response. And in that space, wisdom is born. Tell me. When you begin to observe more and react less, you start to notice patterns in others and in yourself. You see how people act not necessarily as they are, but as they are conditioned to be. You recognize that someone's anger is often their pain. Their rudeness is often their fear. Their judgment is often their projection. Tell me. And suddenly, instead of reacting to their behavior, you understand it. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to accept mistreatment. But you do gain the power to not be controlled by it. Tell me, that power is the foundation of your personal growth. This level of observation requires presence. It asks you to stop living automatically, unconsciously. Instead of falling into habitual responses, you bring awareness into every interaction. You begin to ask yourself tell me, what is really happening here? Is this about me or is this about them? Do I need to speak, or is silence more powerful right now? Do I need to correct, or should I simply walk away? These are not questions of avoidance. They are questions of mastery. You mastery over your own impulses, over the ego that always wants to win, prove, or control. The mind loves drama. It feeds on conflict and stimulation. But the soul craves peace. And when you observe more and react less, you give your soul space to breathe. You allow your energy to be directed toward healing, creating, evolving. Instead of being scattered in endless cycles of emotional reaction, you start to grow because you're no longer stuck in the same loops. Tell me. You don't say, why does this always happen to me? Instead, you say, what is this teaching me? You shift from victim to observer, and from observer to conscious creator. Tell me, observing without reacting also helps you grow emotionally. You begin to feel your emotions without being consumed by them. Anger arises, but you no longer lash out. Sadness visits, but you no longer drown in it. Fear shows up, but you don't let it paralyze you. Instead, tell me, you witness it all, like clouds passing through the sky. This witnessing doesn't suppress your emotions. It honors them without letting them dictate your actions. You develop emotional maturity, the kind that doesn't need to shout to be heard, doesn't need to fight to feel seen. One of the most transformative aspects of this practice is that it changes your relationship with time. Tell me, reactivity is fast and impulsive. Observation is slow and intentional. And in that slowing down, life begins to reveal itself to you. Tell me, you start to hear the messages between the lines. You start to feel the energy behind the words. You start to notice the quietness of your intuition, which was always there but drowned out by noise. As you become more observant, tell me, you become more in tune with life itself. You don't force answers, they come. You don't chase insight. It finds you. And this shift brings that reaction could never give. The truth is, not reacting doesn't mean you are weak. It means you are strong enough to choose your battles wisely. It means you trust yourself enough to not be moved by every trigger. Tell me, it means you value your inner peace more than the temporary satisfaction of winning an argument or proving a point. And that choice, repeated over time, becomes growth. It becomes freedom. Freedom from the chaos of the world and the noise of your own mind. Growth is not always loud. It doesn't always look like progress to others. But in those moments when you choose silence over shouting, stillness over drama, and observation over reactivity, something deep within you expands. Every time you pause instead of reacting, you teach yourself that you are not a slave to your emotions. Every time you observe instead of retaliate, tell me, you show yourself that you are evolving. And each time you choose clarity over chaos, presence over impulse, you take another step toward becoming who you were always meant to be. There is a narrative that has been passed down through generations, often silently, often through unspoken expectations. Tell me, if you focus on yourself, you are selfish. If you choose your own peace over others' demands, you are self-centered. Tell me, if you walk away from what drains you, you are cold. And yet, nothing could be further from the truth. Focusing on yourself, when done with presence and purpose, is not an act of selfishness. It is a sacred return to your soul. Tell me, it is the courageous act of reclaiming your time, your energy, your thoughts, your healing, and your evolution in a world that constantly tries to scatter you in 1,000 directions. There comes a point when you must look at the life you're living and ask a simple question: whose life is this? Are you waking up every day just to meet the needs of others, to check boxes that were never yours? Tell me, to keep up appearances for a version of yourself that no longer exists? Or are you living from the inside out, with awareness, with love, with alignment? Focusing on yourself is not about building walls or isolating. It is about rooting so deeply into your own being that you can finally live with intention rather than obligation. When you begin to focus on yourself, you will be met with resistance, both from within and from others. The inner resistance comes from old conditioning. The voices in your head may whisper that you are abandoning people, that you are being cold, that you are breaking the pattern. But breaking the pattern is the very point. Because for far too long, tell me, you may have put everyone else above yourself. You may have said yes when you wanted to say no. Tell me, you may have stayed silent when you wanted to speak, or stayed present when your soul was begging to leave. That kind of living is not compassion, it is self-abandonment. And healing begins when you stop abandoning yourself. Tell me, the outer resistance will come from people who were benefiting from your self-neglect. The ones who became used to your overgiving. The ones who expected your time, your energy, your care without giving it in return. When you shift your focus inward, tell me, they may call you distant, difficult, or different. But being different is the sign that you're waking up. Tell me, you're no longer available for dynamics that deplete you. You're no longer a match for energies that dishonor your growth. Tell me, you're choosing to evolve, and not everyone will come with you. That is not a loss. That is alignment. Focusing on yourself is a deeply spiritual act because it asks you to meet yourself honestly. Tell me, to sit in silence and face the truth of your own being. To ask what you really need, what you really want, what your heart truly longs for. Tell me. Most people never do this because they are too busy performing. They live on the surface, afraid of what they might find if they go deeper. Tell me, but growth happens in the depths. Peace is found in the pause. When you turn inward and ask real questions, who am I beneath the roles? What brings me alive? What am I avoiding? You begin to heal not just the mind, but the soul. This inner work is not glamorous. Tell me, it is not always neat or easy. Sometimes it means sitting in solitude. Tell me, sometimes it means walking away from relationships that once felt like home, but now feel like cages. Sometimes it means redefining success. Tell me, not by how much you have, but by how whole you feel. Focusing on yourself requires radical honesty and unwavering compassion. You must be willing to see your shadows, not to judge them, but to understand them. You must be willing to take responsibility for your life. Tell me, not blame others for how it turned out. This level of self-focus brings you back to authenticity. You no longer chase external validation. Tell me, you no longer shrink to fit in or dim your light to be accepted. You no longer need to wear masks to be loved. You love yourself as you are. Tell me, in your wholeness, in your mess, in your becoming, you realize that your presence is enough and your path is sacred, even if no one else understands it. You stop explaining your healing. You stop justifying your peace. Tell me, you stop needing others to understand your boundaries. You simply live your truth with quiet confidence. And in doing so, others silent permission to do the same. Focusing on yourself is not withdrawal, it is awakening. Tell me, it is the decision to return to your center again and again, no matter how loud the world becomes. It is the inner vow to keep choosing yourself, not in arrogance, but in reverence. For the life you have been given, tell me, for the path you are walking, for the soul you are becoming. When you begin to focus self and choose silence over noise, everything changes, not just around you, but within you. You start to align with your truth instead of seeking approval from a world that doesn't know your purpose. You create a sacred boundary that protects your inner life to breathe and your heart to breathe. Life with awareness feed, begin to watch no longer chained to impulsive actions, but guided by stillness and clarity. To watch mind you, but proportion from a world. Purpose you like clarity. Tell me, you stop viewing self-focus as selfish and start honoring it as a return to your soul, a deep act of spiritual responsibility. In that quiet space, you rediscover your voice. Tell me, your peace, your strength, and your direction. You no longer feel the need to shout. Your growth, your energy speaks for itself. Tell me, the transformation doesn't come from doing more, proving more, or being more for others. Tell me, it comes from going inward, observing, choosing silence, and living with presence. That is how you rise, not louder, but deeper.